Hi, it's Brian here, and welcome to The Crown, a Clash Royale podcast where each episode we pick a topic, a strategy, a deck, or a card, and we talk to somebody who knows it well. And today on the show, we're taking a look at what goes into running one of the top-ranked clans in the world.
It's almost like you're a part of this little club. Only they understand what you go through to make things work.
We'll find out what you can do to take your clan to the next level.
And we push them and help them to grow, and now they're top performers. I've seen that time and time again.
And take a look at Clash Royale's future as an esport.
Esports is expected to rival real sports within our lifetime.
This is Leading a Top Clan on The Crown. Today's guest is someone who's deeply entrenched in the Clash Royale competitive community. He said that while as much as he loves the game, it's the community that keeps him coming back. He's a leader and part owner of Synergy Gaming.
So I'm known in the community as Nite Light. In real life, I'm Matt. So my role in the community has always been as a leader of top clans. So currently I'm the leader of Synergy. I was involved in the Light, in Genesis Gaming, and in Crazy Canadians. So I've been in the community basically since day one. I lead the feeders, so all of the clans that are there to support the main Synergy clan. I lead the day-to-day activities of Synergy, and I do all of that alongside Trainer Garrett and Bright Light, who are two very well-known names in the community.
Matt also plays a big role in the Clan Royalty Championship Series.
That's a big tournament that is sponsored by Nova Esports. So this was an attempt to try to bring a good, consistent league, and I ended up taking the lead on it, where I was developing the rule set, helping to coordinate streamers and the structure, and through it, I think we established a really good foundation for what competitive Clash Royale leagues can look like, and we see a lot more leagues springing up now using the things we established as a foundation.
I was really expecting Matt to say that he got his leadership experience through his job or through leading sports, but he says really it was just Clash of Clans.
I started taking on a bit of a leadership role there just by being helpful and being nice. So whenever we were in clan wars, helping people plan out their attacks and helping people learn new strategies. And so I really took the lessons I learned there and applied them with Clash Royale. I made an effort to help people out and help them to grow as individuals and help the clan to grow. And that was recognized by the leader there, a great guy named Chrome. And over time, he had to step away, and he decided that I would be the best person to fill his leadership position. So at that point, I was basically leader of a top 10 clan in the game, just by being nice to people and by caring about people and caring about the small little community that we had there. From there is when I was really in a leadership position throughout the entirety of the game up until now.
Synergy has been around for about 6 months now. But before that, Matt and his team went through a lot of big changes to get to where they are. And this was on top of all the regular clan maintenance they had to do. The story starts when Matt and Trainer Garrett were in that first clan, Crazy Canadians.
We recognized that if we wanted to grow and build our brand, the Canadian name was really going to be limiting. So we merged together with In the Light and took on the In the Light name. And so at that stage, there were 4 people involved in leadership. Myself, Trainer Garrett, Bright Light, who are the 3 who now lead Synergy, as well as someone named Ryan. Lightwing is what he was known by. And In the Light was a massive name at the time. It's still talked about almost with reverence. It was a huge brand, and every once in a while now, you even see some of the top players going and making a clan for a day called In the Light, just sort of remembering it and being nostalgic about it. That clan existed for a while. Just through some challenges and disagreements with leadership, Trainer Garrett and Bright Light ended up splitting off to become Alpha Esports. So they did that for a while. They were incredibly successful with it. They were generally holding top 5, which was beyond what even In the Light could do. And at the time, In the Light started struggling. We had lost some of our key players. We had lost a lot of the foundation that we had. And so we ended up merging with USA rivals to create Genesis Gaming. So Genesis Gaming persisted for probably 3 to 4 months. We were fairly successful with it, and then we ended up coming together, Genesis Gaming and Alpha Esports, to create Synergy. So there's a lot of moves here, there's a lot of merges, a lot of politics. That really is sort of the defining feature of the competitive community with Clash Royale, though, where everyone is looking to go out on their own and make a name for themselves. And you lose people, you meet new people, but if you really want to be successful as a top clan, you need to be willing to make those big changes and big moves, like changing your name and giving up your branding so that you can ally with someone else and find the growth that you really want.
So you can see the big moves that Synergy made to get to where they are. But there's a lot of little things that they do on a regular basis, things that you can do in your clan. First, you need to decide what your goal is,
because that's going to be the defining principle that everything is aimed towards. And that's something people often miss out on a lot, where you have different leaders with different goals that are looking for different things, and it can cause a lot of challenges and really hold you back from achieving those goals unless you have a singular focus. So Synergy has a singular goal of being a top clan, of getting the highest ranking we can. And then secondary to that, but something we do still care about, is having a good, healthy community behind it. So if a clan decides that they do want to be a top clan and they do want to be as competitive as possible on the leaderboards, then you're in a situation where community does have to take a backseat to that. You might have to kick some friends sometimes from the clan. You might need to kick people that have been with you a long time. And that is sort of the part of the rationale behind feeders in many ways. So you really need that singular goal first. And it's okay if you don't want to be a top clan. Most of them aren't. Most of the people that play the game play it for the love of the game and the community, and that's entirely okay. If you decide that you want to build a top clan, my first thing that I would say to you is don't. Think about how much work that it's going to be. Think about how much time you'll likely have to put in, and then quadruple that. And maybe you'll get close to what it takes. The common thing, if you ever talk to a leader of a top clan, it's almost like you're a part of this little club where only they understand what you go through to make things work. Because it really is, it's so much time. It's such a huge investment of time, energy. It can cause so much stress, where a game is normally looked at as a release for all that. So, but let's say you get past that. Let's say you decide, I am willing to put the time in, I am willing to put the energy in, and I really want to be in the most competitive clan that I can. I want to help grow that. The first thing you need a good team behind you. So you can't do it alone. You need at least usually 2 other people, or sometimes you can get by with one, who are willing to support you, who are going to do it alongside you, and who really have the same goals as you. If you find that, then you're off to a good start, because finding a good leader to work alongside with is one of the hardest things you can do. It really is. They're few and far between. There are some fantastic ones in this game that have emerged out of it, but they're few and far between, so make sure you know who you're working with. Beyond that, you need to start establishing a foundation. So that's a lot easier if you already have a clan on your own. So let's say you have a clan, it's just out of the global leaderboard, so let's say it's ranked top 300 in the world. How do you push that to the point where you can be competitive with those top clans and you can keep growing it and snowballing? Well, the start of that is, and the easiest way, although it's not ideal, is merging with another clan. So coming together, recognizing that they have the same goals as you do, and that you could do better together than you could separate. But a lot of people don't want to take that approach. It is risky. You can lose players with it. And it's not good having to call 25% or 50% of your clan just to maybe jump up a few spots on the leaderboards. So it is something you really need to consider carefully. But if you don't decide you want to do that, then there's a few simple things you can do. The first is lower your trophy requirements. If you want people at 4,000, bring it down to 3,800. And anyone who requests who's too low, just send them to a feeder. Start building a bit of foundation that you can rely on if you ever need it for the main clan. And with the people that are in your clan, encourage them to push. So have competitions. Make it pair people up so that you're trying to beat this person and they're trying to beat you. And that'll really drive people to do better with what you already have. Outside of that, though, one of the big things you can do is recruiting. So let's say you see a player, let's say you see a level 12 player in another clan, they just don't fit in there. They're super high level for them. You can see the clan's not very active, but that player plays a lot. Reach out to them, see if they'd be interested in joining your community, and see if they have the same common goals as you. And if they do, over time, you can build up a base of people that are much stronger than what you had. And so bringing those players in, one at a time, two at a time, let's say you get 2 a week. New recruits that are higher level than what you had, that can really help you push for your goal. That adds up over time. And as you start growing, you'll see that it snowballs. People recognize that a clan is growing, that, oh, it was 300th last season, now it's 250. Like, this is something that's on the rise. That's something I want to be a part of. And so as you start getting these people in, you'll become more and more attractive to people just requesting and joining your clan. And you'll make it easier and easier on yourself.
Do you guys spend time doing friendly battles and kind of developing and coaching with each other?
I do think it is incredibly important to have people engaging with each other, to be helping people improve. Let's say someone's underperforming in your clan. Let's say they have the levels to be 300 trophies above where they are. And you see that they're consistently down there, but they're playing a lot. That's the best person to put time into. Someone who's passionate about the game, but just doesn't have the skills right now. That's the person that's going to help you grow to where you want, because they actually care. They care about what happens. So we recognize those players a lot. We see a lot of those players. And so we'll put the time into them, where whether it's a co-leader or just another member ends up working with them and says, you know what, I see that deck might not be working for you. Why don't you try out this one? Why don't we do a few friendlies with it? I can show you how to do it. And then you can share some replays with me afterwards. And just really simple things, and checking back in day to day to see how they're doing, and encouraging each other to push and try to improve more than just playing, but to try to really focus on some specific things. And you get a lot of great feedback from that, and people that become incredibly successful. There's players where they struggled. They were consistently at the bottom of Synergy, for example, and they were worked with over time, and we pushed them and helped them to grow, and now they're top performers. I've seen that time and time again.
For the average clan or someone that's starting, what is the point that it becomes important to start a feeder?
So feeders can be a ton of work, especially because as you go down in trophies, you tend to get younger and younger and younger players. And with that means more immaturity and just a lot more time that has to be invested into running them. So you really do need to think about, is it worth it for me to have a feeder? Oftentimes though, having one feeder, having two feeders isn't a problem. And it can actually be really good for you, because one of the biggest problems is when you get to 50 members and you see that your bottom player, he's someone who's been with you a long time. Let's say he's a co-leader. He's someone that just can't perform in game, but he's super active in the clan, and just, you don't want to kick him, but at the same time, everyone understands that if you're that last person, you're going to be kicked when someone new comes in. So a feeder fixes that problem, where rather than having to lose those members, you can just send them to the next feeder down, and they can actually take on a big role there, where the people who maybe can't cut it in the main clan, just because of trophies, can end up leading those lower clans, or really helping to grow those players in the feeders. So feeders really allow you to not lose your friends.
It's cool how you can take somebody that's not contributing much in your main clan, and all of a sudden they become an essential resource in your feeder. It's like this reallocation of your resources, and all of a sudden you're doing better than you were.
Yeah, exactly. And you see actually a lot of people thriving in those roles where they are leading those feeders. One of the big things with Synergy is, because we do have 10 feeders, we've really tried to get the best leaders possible in place. Every clan has 2 leaders. So a 2-person leadership team who is in a big group chat with all of the other leaders from the main clans, and we talk about policy issues, things that apply between the clans. But then those leaders, they really have autonomy for their own clans, where they can run things how they see fit. They can deal with issues. And by getting the right people in place there, by getting the people that are responsible, that, like I mentioned, are willing to take the time to understand issues and are really willing to help grow players. By having those people in place, that's how you get those feeders to succeed, and that's how you get clans to succeed in general, by having the right people in place to guide everyone else.
You mentioned having a group chat. How important is that in terms of staying in communication?
Every top clan has some kind of communication feature outside of the game. So whether that's WeChat, Line, Discord, something of the sort that allows you to stay in touch with players and really connect on a more personal level than what you can just do in-game. And it also allows you to bring together larger communities. So we have a chat with hundreds of people in it. I think like 500 people in it, because they're from all of the Synergy clans. When you talk about 10 clans, that doesn't seem like a lot, but we realize that makes up 500 individuals. That's a massive community that you can build.
So what are the requirements to join Synergy, either the top clan or your feeders?
The requirements for Synergy, it's sort of transient because you have trophy inflation. So every single season, players get more and more trophies at the end. But in general, right now, we're looking for about a 5,300 personal best. So that's what you end the season at. You need to be able to end the season above 5,300. And then it stair steps down by about 200 trophies for each of our feeders.
While Matt's tips are things that you can do wherever your clan ranks, there's also things that are unique to the leaderboard, and some things that have proved a major challenge to Supercell and the community.
One of the big things that did plague the community was win trading. So for those that don't know what that is, it's where two people will queue up on ladder, so they'll both click battle at the same time with the intent of finding each other, and then one person giving a win to the other. And the goal of that is to boost someone up in trophies so that they can get to the top of the leaderboards. And you saw that to a crazy, crazy extent in the summer, to the point where people were normally not even hitting 5,000 trophies, yet one guy hit 6,000 trophies in a season just because he was win traded so heavily. So when you think about that, normally you might see a 5 trophy difference on the leaderboards from first to second to third to fourth. This was a guy that had gone to 6,000 trophies, which was that was really the point where people looked at it and said, what's wrong with this? Supercell needs to fix it. There was a lot of hate in the community for some specific entities at the time. So I won't get into names, but it was fairly well known who was and wasn't involved in it. And with Synergy, we recognized that we were never going to be able to compete with that. We didn't have the accounts and resources to do it. And we also just didn't think it was right. We didn't think it was good for the community. So we decided to bill ourselves as the top legitimate clan. The top legit clan where even if we placed 4th in the world, you could see that the 3 clans above us had all win traded. And so people would look at us and say, Synergy won that season. And it was something that worked incredibly well for us. And that we were okay with because we felt that we could be a positive influence on the community. And you actually see now how, as a public outcry about it has gone greater and greater with win trading, the clans have actually transitioned away from it. So all those clans that were involved, it almost never happens anymore. There's individual instances, but it's not systemic like it was. Partially because of what Supercell's done. They've made some under-the-hood changes to make it more difficult to win trade, which they haven't really talked about publicly, other than just saying that they are looking into it and trying to address it. But really, it's been a community-driven fix, where they've recognized that for competitive play to succeed in Clash Royale, for Clash Royale to succeed as an esport, people need to think that what's happening is fair. That if you're playing it, as much as it is pay to win in many ways, if you're going into a game or if you're looking at the leaderboards, you know that the person in that top spot earned it and that they should be there. I think win trading is a bit of a unique exploit where you can't remove it entirely without destroying the top leaderboards. So what I mean by that is, what most people don't realize is when they're playing a game normally, they click battle, and 2 seconds later, maybe 10 seconds later, if your Wi-Fi is not so great, you're going to be in a game and you're going to be playing. If you're at the top of the leaderboards and you're top 10, top 20, top 50, you might be waiting 5 to 10 minutes for a game to wait for someone to queue up who you can match up against. And it's gone longer and longer because Supercell has done some under the hood changes to make it more difficult to match up with someone intentionally. So to try to prevent win trading. And so the more you do to try to prevent win trading, short of manually watching games, you can't do anything without really lengthening those queue times. And I think if it went beyond what it is now, there would be a significant negative response. Because if you look at Clash of Clans, you could have ended up with 45-minute queue times sometimes just to get a game if you were at the top. I remember I know a guy who he was basically paid to push to play for people at the top of the Clash of Clans leaderboard. And he has this one picture of himself sitting in a room, literally surrounded by 10 to 15 iPads that are all queued up waiting to play to find a game, because it takes so long that you're better off just queuing up multiple, and most of the time you would only end up in one at a time. And people just called it like watching the clouds. So I definitely don't want Clash Royale to move towards that. So I don't think Supercell can do much more than they already have. Given that, I think it really does come down to the community. And we've seen the community take do a really good thing now by coming together and standing up against win trading and helping to prevent it now.
What's next for the Clash Royale competitive community? Becoming a real esport.
The competitions that are going on right now in Clash Royale are great. There's leagues going on, there's small little ones, there's some big names getting involved, but there's no real consistent competitive format. And that's really what's going to need to happen for the competitive scene of Clash Royale to take off, and for players to be able to support themselves just by playing the game, really. Esports is an incredible thing that's booming right now. The growth it's seeing is absolutely incredible around the world, especially in North America. You're seeing double-digit growth every single year, year over year. And esports is expected to rival real sports within our lifetime, both in terms of profitability, viewership, everything. If you look at the League of Legends finals, that brought in more viewership than the NBA finals. Yet, there's so many people that don't even know what esports is. If you look at the older generation, so let's say 30 plus, most people have probably never even heard of esports. And so you also have this incredible growth potential where simply by people aging and growing up with video games and having new generation come in, you're going to have a generation filled with people that don't just know about esports, but where it's one of their main ways of entertainment. Rather than looking to the TV, they're looking to YouTube, and they're looking to Twitch, and they're looking to other platforms to get entertainment in areas where more than just watching someone play a sport, throwing a ball or kicking a ball across an arena, they're able to watch it and then jump right into it and play and use the things that they just learned by watching their favorite esports players. So the esports industry overall, mobile esports specifically, is seeing incredible growth, and Clash Royale needs to be able to convert on that. And that's something that the community is absolutely behind. There's people coming together from all different organizations and clans trying to push it, trying to support it. One of the big challenges, though, is just Supercell. I don't want to speak too poorly of them because they have an incredible game that they've done great things with. They are unrivaled when it comes to mobile games and game design, but in terms of esports, they have not taken the right approach in many ways. If you look back at the Clash Royale North American Open, this was a massive tournament. They did it where thousands and thousands of people played online to qualify. They won the ability to be flown out to California to compete. There was over $100,000 prize pool. So that is fairly massive in its own right. But if you look at the way that players were asked to compete. One of the stages was players competed in sort of a gimmicky way. So let's say you were forced to use Ice Spirit as a card. They had snowballs thrown at them the whole time, or they were pelted with tennis balls, to the point where sometimes I know a lot of the players that competed in this, and one of them said that they literally couldn't play cards because their iPad was covered in water. He basically said, it would have been nice if I could play my cards. So having a competitive format where you're handicapping people like that, where you're making it gimmicky, I think that's something that is incredibly hurtful to the competitive community. In some ways, it was almost degrading to the players who invest so much time to developing their talent, and then were basically given a coin flip for whether or not they would be able to move on to the next stage and compete for thousands and thousands of dollars. That was something that caused a big fuss in the competitive community, and it really had people worried about what direction Supercell was going to go with Clash Royale's esports. Because seeing something like that really is not conducive to what the players and community is looking for. But the feedback and response we've gotten from Supercell is very much along the lines of they recognize that maybe wasn't the best approach, and they are hoping to do Clash Royale esports in a different way that's not using those gimmicky options. My impression is that they do still want it to be very fun. They don't want to take itself too seriously. At the same time, they don't want to sacrifice competitive play too much. They want it to still be there and be a key aspect of it. And so I'm hoping, and I think the community hopes, that in 2017, we can really see a true competitive format from Clash Royale, from Supercell, and that's really what's needed to bring this game to the next level. Because no matter what other people do, no matter what other organizations do to support the game, in the end it's going to be on Supercell to decide where they want the game to go.
So the thing about Clash Royale is it kind of really is pay to win. Those maxed accounts cost thousands of dollars. Something you see happening is people sharing accounts and the login details. The thing is, those expensive accounts don't always make it back.
You have these select players. One of them was sort of known as Storm, because that was his in-game name. He was known as Storm. I won't go into his real name. But over the course of a few months, he stole probably upwards of $50,000 worth of accounts and money from all different individuals. And a lot of that comes from people not understanding how to protect their accounts and their property, or people trying to sell accounts and doing the wrong things with it. A caveat here too, it is against Supercell terms of service to sell accounts, to allow other people on your accounts. That said, the terms of service really are all bark, no bite. They're not really enforced. All it really means is if you break those, Supercell won't be able to help you. So if you lose your account because of account sharing or something, they might still help, but it's less likely that they will because you did violate the terms of service. So the only way to ever truly protect your account is to never give it to anyone. Beyond that, there are ways to do it safely, but a lot of people don't know about those ways, and so they end up in these situations where Storm might say to them, "Hey, I can get you cheaper gems. I have this hookup. All you have to do is let me on your account," and then he'll go through a process and convince them over time of letting him have complete access, so to the security questions where he can change the account information and basically take it as his own. And he did this over and over and over in the community, to the point where he stole multiple accounts, and him as well as someone else who he knew in real life was doing it with him, and they really were a plague on the community. You heard this happening week after week, more and more new victims, whether it was $50 quickly or another account being stolen. And so some of the community members came together and really decided, we need to do something about this. He can't keep hiding behind his anonymity just because he's on the internet, there needs to be real consequences. Like, these are things that are worth a ton of money. If you did this in real life, you would be calling the police. So what can we do about it? So through a series of almost like investigative work, myself and two other people spent hours upon hours like getting little tidbits of information from the people that had been involved with it. So whether that was, let's say, Storm logged onto an account and changed the email. Well, that email, people tend to use the same things consistently with emails and logins. So that email, let's look that up on the internet. Oh, that shows it's connected to this person, and then to a point where we end up actually finding out the person's name in real life. So then there's the issue of, how do you figure out where that person is? They can be anywhere in the world. So through a series of things and gaining more and more information, figuring out who Storm actually was, who he was working with to help him steal the accounts. And this was like hours upon hours of just scrolling through like Ask.fm and Twitter feeds, looking for like the littlest bit of information. And like literally just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And eventually we got to the point where we knew their names. We knew what high school they went to. We knew how they were related to each other. And we started by calling their parents at first. Didn't get the best response. If someone calls you up saying, like, your son's been doing this online, well, blah, 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 like, I'm not someone you've ever met, doesn't usually get the best response. But basically we made it clear to Storm and the other hackers that we knew who they were, that there would be real life consequences in terms of contacting the police if they didn't stop. It pushed them out. You do still hear inklings of them every once in a while, but for the most part, they're not really an issue anymore in the community because of people banding together and helping to work out the situation, and not just figuring out who they are, but also helping to talk people through how to recover their accounts. There are ways to do it. It's incredibly annoying to deal with Supercell and Apple for it, but there are ways to do it. And so helping to talk people through that, helping to get them the things they needed to recover their accounts. And so something that did reflect so poorly on the community really created an opportunity for people to come together and to help out those who needed it.
Do you think the police would do anything? Do you know what the follow-up might be if you had to turn to the police?
Honestly, I'm not sure that they would really do anything about it, especially if you're talking about like a small town police force or something like that. I don't think you would get anything. If you were dealing with a big city, let's say, I'm from Toronto. If you were dealing with a police force in Toronto and you got in touch with the right people, I do think cybercrimes is something that's fairly significant now. Not something I could speak to statistics about or anything, but I would imagine that it is a fairly large element of criminal activity now. And so I would hope that they would take it seriously in some ways. But at the same time, there's also a huge legal gray area where these accounts, so let's say a max account is worth $15,000 US. That's probably average, or what would be spent to get it there. That account, as much as you have sort of the exclusive ability to log into it, it says in Supercell terms of service that Supercell retains ownership of everything within game. So theoretically, you don't own that account. Theoretically, Supercell owns that account. So if someone takes that, if someone steals that account, have they really stolen anything? The ownership hasn't changed of it. So then you get into the only thing that they've actually stolen is the login details, which would be, I believe, is criminal, but I think it's very different from stealing like an actual asset or something worth that much. So it definitely is a bit of a gray area, and I don't really know how police would treat it. I don't think they would be very responsive initially. I think if they did investigate it in some way, it would take a lot of pushing.
It's so weird.
But so yeah, it was in many ways. It was just trying to scare them off with it. We would have gone to the police. We would have tried, but I don't know how successful it would have been.
Well, hopefully they're not listening.
Hopefully not. So for keeping your account safe, for keeping it away from these scammers. The only way to truly do it without any question is to never share it with anyone. It's to have a completely different login than you use for anything else, and to never share that with anyone at all. I understand though that often you want to share it with maybe your friend, with your sibling, or someone you meet online who you trust. You want to be able to have them push your account. So there are safe ways to do that. First of all, Android's the easy one, in that I can definitively tell you can't share it if you're on Android. You can't share it safely. There's no way to. Once you let someone on your account, they're able to change and when I say account, I mean the Google Play login. So once you let someone on the Google Play login, they're able to change the password, they're able to change the recovery email, the recovery phone number. There's just no way to do it safely with Android. Once someone's on there, you're basically handing the keys to the car. You're handing them the keys to the car and trusting that they're going to bring it back. If you're on Apple, if you use an Apple ID or a Game Center to log in to Clash Royale, then you can do it safely. And that's because Apple has security questions. So how it works is you can give someone the password and username, and they can go log into the account. It'll let them onto Clash Royale if they log in Game Center, and they can play, but they can't change anything. So they can't change the password to the account. They can't change the name, the recovery email, because they would need the security questions to do that. So a security question might be like, what was the name of your first dog? Things like that. And you want to make those security questions difficult to find answers to. So if I can go on your Facebook and I see a picture of your dog right there, and the picture is, what's the name of your dog? I'm gonna know that answer pretty quickly, and they're not gonna do much for you. So you want to make sure that they are difficult questions. The other thing with that is a ton of people think, you know what, I'll be completely safe. I'll have two-step verification on, so whenever someone goes to log in, I get a text about it, so they'll never be able to steal the account or change anything. Unfortunately, Apple does something really strange, which is that if you put two-step verification on, it actually removes the security questions. So once you let someone on with two-step, they can change everything. They can change everything just like they can with Google. So you always want to be security questions that are safe, and where you only give them the username and the password. You should never give the security question answers out. And then the other important thing with that to realize is, even if you change the Game Center password, even if you change the username, change everything with it, if they're logged into your Clash Royale account, it doesn't kick them off. So they're going to stay logged in, and there's no way to get them off normally. To get them off, you end up having to go through Supercell, through a verification process where they verify you say who you are, and they'll end up booting all devices out, and then you can re-log in. But that's a difficult process. It's not something you want to have to go through. So really make sure you know who you're letting on your account.
So if we want to find out more about you or about Synergy, where can we find you?
So you can find out more about Synergy at synergygamingcr.com. That'll tell you all about our clans, all about our philosophies. You can purchase lessons there. You can get in contact with us. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at synergygamingcr, same as the website. And my personal Twitter is at Nite Light CR. So super simple, pretty consistent. If you want to follow me there, I generally tweet about whatever is going on in the community. We just try to keep people informed. And the other thing is, if you want to follow me on Facebook to watch me play, I don't recommend it. I'm not all that good of a player, but it's just Nite Light. So that's NITE space light. I thought I was cool when I spelled night the wrong way to start off. It was not a good decision.
And it seems like there's a lot of people that have used that light theme.
Yeah, so that's sort of part of the legacy of In the Light in some ways, all of those light names. So when people are looking on the leaderboards and you see like 20 out of the top 100 people in the world all with a light name, that's sort of our legacy, where most clans you can look at, there's probably going to be someone with a light name in it.
Thanks to Matt for joining us. And if you try any of his tips on how to manage your clan better, let us know how it goes. You can tweet at us at Crown Podcast. And as always, you can email comments and feedback to the king at crownpodcast.com. He loves to get email. Music in today's episode was provided by Dominant, and the intro and outro music was by Oddling. You can find links to both those producers on our website, crownpodcast.com. Be sure to check back next time when we'll be talking to Woody of Reddit Alpha about the different deck archetypes. Until then, you've been listening to The Crown, a Clash Royale podcast.